Okay, I started the stream. I'm just waiting for it to pop up on the dashboard that it's actually went through. Okay.
Ken, what do you use for a bot on stream?
For what? I'm sorry.
Like a bot? Do you use any bot like MooBot or like the other ones?
I had something on Nightbot. I don't have it activated right now.
Yeah.
I'll have to set it up again. But right now, there's nothing.
I hear Big Dick Bot's pretty good.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Big Dick Bot?
Which one?
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that one.
Anyway, so is there any restrictions as far as language that goes on the stream?
No. I mean, obviously, we won't have to go overboard with anything.
Okay.
But there's no real
I just don't know
restrictions or anything
because
like that,
some streams are cleaner than others. I obviously don't swear up the ass, but if I need to, not say any words, it'd be good to know.
Yeah, no, it's
Welcome,
in general
Ross.
fine. All right, so I'm gonna start it here. All right, so it goes, everyone. Welcome to Hearth Soul episode 2. I'm here with our special guest Noah, as well as Pablo, who's on the phone, Jordan, and Tiago. Today we are discussing Goblins versus Gnomes again. We did so on the first episode, but this time the expansion has come out. It's been out for a week, and we're going to go over on a class by class basis each of the new cards to see how we think that class has changed based on this expansion. Alrighty, so you guys have the new cards up, right? So you guys, we're gonna start with Druid. So I think Druid got the worst of this expansion. I think the Robot Cub is good, and Druid of the Fang is okay. Mech Cat's okay. And Grove Tinder's okay. I mean, that's the thing. Like, most of the cards are just okay for them, and a lot of them are a little too expensive. So, Jordan, what do you think about Druid? Like, do you like the Druid cards, or how do you feel about
No, I don't really like the Druid cards all that much, to be honest. I think, like you said, the Cub may be the best card that they got that I can think of right
it?
now, probably. And it's like a 2-mana 2/3 with taunt, so it's
Right.
not really all that exciting, I don't think. And I think it did for sure, just got shafted. But I think like Druid's like cards were like you don't really play many Druid cards in the Druid deck anyway. You play Innervate. I guess you probably play like 10, but like
It depends if you're playing ramp or not. If you're playing ramp, then you're probably
yeah,
playing quite
like
a
they
bit.
just
But
like
otherwise, yeah.
they got stuff that they didn't really need. So I think it just didn't, the impact of it was just wasn't significant. Like they got a 6-mana removal spell. Kind of
Yeah.
odd.
I've seen Tree of Life used effectively once. I guess it kind of makes Molten Giant Druid viable, but then that's still just sort of
I've
like, well,
actually
why
used Tree of
bother?
Life twice. I disenchanted both of my copies and bought a rare with both of them. So they got effective use.
Tiago, what do you think about the Druid? How Druid was treated this expansion?
I think the idea behind the design was pretty nice, but it didn't come out as good as we thought it would. Like, the best card is the 2-drop probably, and the 3-drop has a drawback that is never interesting. As druid, you really want to. It depends on if you're playing mid-range or ramp, but most of the time you want to out-tempo your opponent, and it's an interesting card, but it's just, I don't think it's worth to have it. So I really feel that Druid didn't really got too much value from the new cards.
Okay. Noah, how do you feel
so
about Druid in this expansion?
What I think about the entire expansion is it was aimed at giving decks other archetypes and ranges that they didn't have before. So Druid is commonly
Mm-hmm.
played in mid range in some form or another, where there's more aggressive with like the tokeny style, or the ramp style, or the innervate yeti mid range style. So I think what they wanted to do with this is they wanted to give it more flexibility, especially in the late game, which it never had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that cards like Tree of Life, Malorn, Recycle, Dark Whispers, not that I think they went in a great direction with it. I think it was all designed to give Druid a later game archetype, as well as cards like Grove Tender, Robocub, Druid of the Fang, Mech Bearcat. I mean, some of those are just like kind of throw-ins to give it more versatility. Um, but I think
Mm-hmm.
that what they were going with is they don't have a low drop, so that's where the Cub came in. Um, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that um, the other cards allow for like the super late game fatigue druid, or like a mill druid with Grove Tender, or all sorts of stuff. But a lot of really, I think the most controversial card is probably Tree of Life, and I actually think that in a hyper late game deck or just a ramp druid deck, it can work. Just like when they get those big Ancient of Wars out there, you could actually like trade in the damage on the Ancient of Wars, trade in all of your minions, get them all damaged while killing their board, and then Tree of Life, and then it's just like your opponent is exhausted of resources. So I think that Tree of Life can be a good card. I just think that all of the cards put out weren't made to help the current mid-range druid, because mid-range druid needs no help at all. And the neutral cards are going to help mid-range druid, as I'm going to show a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. So would you say they were successful in creating and providing enough late game
Uh,
for Druid?
yeah, I
Do you think
mean,
Malorn and Treat of Life
yeah, I
do
think
it? Or?
that yes. I'm just going to go with a yes on that one. Recycle is really important for dealing with things like Sneed's Old Shredder and stuff like that, and like Sylvanas, and things that we was never able to deal with before. And do I think that these cards are good in the Druid that was played before? No. Do I think the Druid that was played before still has its place in the meta? Of course, it's a great tech.
Mhm. Pablo, what would you say about the Druid in this expansion?
Well, going into this, I always thought of Druid as a very overpowered class because I saw their choose one mechanics as not just one card, but a potential of having two options, or as in two cards. So with that mindset,
Mm-hmm.
Druids actually have like, depending on the deck, 38 cards over your opponent's 30 cards with the choose one mechanics. But with these new cards that have been, like revealed so far alive, uh, cards like Dark Whispers, pretty underwhelming. But from Blizzard's standpoint, I think they weren't really targeting, constructed as much, but more so in like arena because they realized that people would rather play random decks because most people don't really have enough dust for the like meta decks or whatever. Since most of them, if you're playing Druid, are pretty stacked like Legends, all those like mid-range fatties. But cards like the Robocub is obviously all star,
Mm-hmm.
but other cards like Rogue Tender really have no point to include in like a constructed deck because why would you give your opponent a certain like advantage? And I can understand where they were going with Mech Bearcat, with with giving its potential value of if the dream did happen to it, you can get like +5 out of its like own effect with spare parts. But you can't really, count on that all that much with so many new options that the other class got, which is way better than what Druid has gotten. So I guess from Blizzard's point of view, all these new cards were basically meant to help Druid in the arena format more so than the constructed format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. One issue, like when new cards were announced on and people were commenting on them, they were always commenting on them within the context of the current meta, not thinking about the potential new archetypes. So yeah, I'm not So I guess I mean, I'm underwhelmed by the Druid offering, but I mean, if it creates new archetypes, then it's a good thing. I mean, obviously there are probably some new ideas for these cards that people have not thought of yet. But it's easy to look at, you know, based on what we know about Druid from the current cards, seeing that these maybe don't fit. But I'm sure new ideas will crop up from them. Let's move on to Hunter. Okay. Uh, okay. So uh, it seems like Blizzard's trying to move Hunter into a more of a control area. Although they also included cards like Metal Tooth Leaper, which is obviously more of aggro. Um, and I mean, overall, I would say the Hunter cards are pretty good. I mean, I think Call Pet is a bit underwhelming. It probably better as like either three mana card that drew you a beast that costs four less, or as uh, a 2 mana one that made the beast cost three less, but it actually drew you a beast rather than you gambling with your deck. I think
Can I make
it's not as useful as
a
it could
comment
be.
on that?
I think
So, based
sure.
on what Blizzard said about Flare, they don't want Flare to be an auto include because they want people to have risk and reward with playing the card. So I think that the
Hmm.
reason why it's not just draw a beast that costs four less for three is because they want a risk involved with playing the card. Otherwise, it would be auto include. So I just think that that's the reason why they didn't do that. Yeah, it would be better that way, but.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the issue is the risk almost makes it as if the people seem less likely to use it simply because of the risk. So it's sort of
Yeah,
damned if you do, damned
RNG
if you don't,
sim.
I guess. Um, yeah. Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, overall, there are a few aggro card like options like Metal Tooth, and I think Glaive Zuka is a good weapon. Um, but Jordan, what do you think of the Hunter
I
offerings?
love Hunter. It's my favorite class. But I've
Okay.
tried all of these cards except for Cobra Shot because it's obviously just horrible.
What do you mean?
Um,
It's a multi-shot that you can aim, and you
yeah,
with the face.
and it's like call call pet is just too random. The sniper just didn't really do anything. Feign Death most of the time was like a 2 mana arcane shot that like sometimes drew you a card. Glaive Zuka I'd play like one just because like it's like good against like other Undertakers. It's pretty good if they're like not buffed. It's a good way for like your one drop to kill like a Northshire Cleric or like a Mana Worm or something on turn one. So like Glaive Zuka, I've been playing one. It's okay. Uh, Metal Tooth Leaper, I just found
Hmm.
that Hunter wasn't the best mech deck, so didn't really play it. King of Beasts is pretty awful because like it's a 2/6 taunt for five that's only gets bigger if you have beasts on the board when you play it. Like, so you already have to be ahead in order for it to get any bigger. I think I'd rather just play Sludge Belcher. And Gazrilla is
Hmm.
just okay. Like, I think he's like a cute card, I guess. Like, I think if Unleash the Hounds was the old way, it'd be really good. But you could just like Unleash the Hounds, Mad Bomber, like try win. But yeah, I think Hunter got like the second worst, probably, maybe even the worst cards. But as far as like class cards go, they got like the worst cards. I think they got like one of the best cards, to be honest with you. But we'll talk about that when we talk about decks. So that's my opinion.
Hmm. Tiago, how do you feel about Hunter in this expansion?
Well, I feel some cards are useful, some are more for arena. Like, I don't really like the idea behind Call Pet and the Sniper because I, f- I think it changed a little bit the nature of the Hunter to constantly pressure your opponent, and I really think some of the cards are really, really underwhelming. Maybe Cobra Shot is maybe, in my opinion, the worst class card in this expansion. So I didn't really like it,
Mhm.
but I don't feel Runter is really uh, any weaker than it was before because of the some underwhelming cards in the set.
Okay. Noah, how do you feel about
So I'm
Hunter in this
gonna go
expansion?
with the same theme as last time, where they were trying to give the decks more archetypes. But I mean, from a card basis, Gazrilla, I think. I mean, my first impression was like, oh my god, this thing is getting killed the second it comes out. But then someone
Hmm.
pointed out to me that oftentimes just the nature of Savannah Highmane being 6 mana. Um, Oftentimes the second your opponent sees Savannah Highmane, he needs to blow like his most previous removal on it on turn 6, and then like turn 7 Gazrilla, um, turn 8 Mad Bomber, or however you choose to activate it. Um, I think it's fine. I
Hmm.
think that if you can get your opponent's removal out of the way, or if you could just like not have it and be really salty, you can just kill someone with Gazrilla. But it's obviously not going for an aggro approach. It's definitely for a control deck, using it as a win condition. I don't think it should be the only win condition for a deck. Then again, its Hunter power is a win
Hmm.
condition. King of Beasts, mid-ranged beast deck was around for a while, before like hyper aggro was preferred, and I think it could be used to bring it back. Obviously, you'd compare it to Sludge Belcher, where there's some times where King of Beasts isn't better. Sludge Belcher is more consistent, but it has the Beast synergy
Hmm.
instead of Death Rattle. Cobra Shot card sucks. Continue. Metal Tooth Leaper. I think that while it could have a place in mech aggro, I actually think that a mid-range Death Rattle mech is kind of possible, just because Mech Warper combined with the Undertaker allowing you to get like free of the 2/1 Death Rattles out, like free versions of them, and then like Shredder, piloted Shredder is Death Rattle, and there's just a lot of Death Rattles that you can curve out, but some of them are more expensive, and then Savannah Highmane Death Rattle. So I think that a Metal Tooth Leaper could be used in a Death Rattle mech deck, and I think it would definitely be more mid-ranged. All the other cards, Feign Death, I'm not sure if it gets rid of the Death Rattles that are already on your minions, but I think it's a great card. Glaive Zuka, I think it's an all-around good card. Seamweedle Sniper, I think you could probably get a use out of it before it's killed. If you're lucky and it's sort of like, mid-game, late game where they have like more priorities that they have to deal with and you have board control. If you can get a lot of sniper value with your hero power. I mean, Alkanai hero power is a thing for priests, so I think it's a good card.
Hmm.
And Colpet kind of talked about it before. Inconsistent, high risk, high reward kind of deal. Um, and it cycles,
Hmm.
so there's that.
Okay. Pablo, how do you feel about
I
Hunter
felt like
in this
Blizzard
expansion?
was promoting more of a, like a flavor aspect with cards like Ozrilla, King of Bees, and Call Pet, because in that sort of flavor aspect, hunters are supposed to be, the owners of these huge and powerful beasts, and of course they have access to like cards or abilities that like synergy with these types of beasts. But in the way that they designed some of them, it didn't really turn out that well. Like for King of Bees, he just had awkward attack stats, and I know his ability is meant to be gained from his own effect, but I feel like it was still too low for so much commitment with 5 mana. And with Call Pet, like people have really said, it's a bit random. And for 2 mana, I'd rather most likely in some cases just go to face with the hero power. And with Godzilla, it does seem attractive with its stats and its effect, but I feel like people can outplay it very,
Hmm.
very easily with other support cards. And obviously, Cobra Shy just give obligatory bad card, and that then has include. But the real all-star, and I would consider this to be the top three of this entire set, has to be Fame Death, because if you already established a pretty good, position board with, I don't know, let's say Haunted Spider with Loot Hoarder, you can potentially, +2 or +3 with it on the battlefield. And there have been some games where I just stole them by having a turn 8 Sylvanas plus Feign Death combo, stealing my opponent's only minion. And that usually happens a lot.
So to clarify, you keep the death rattle on the minion.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
you
it
do.
yeah, you get
All
to
right.
basically
Well,
trigger
then
it
the
twice
card
in one
is
turn if you want.
absolutely insane, ridiculously insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when the first day after, this expansion came out, I had a 15 plus win streak just for me, playing flares, Feign Deaths. It's really that powerful. And I stole so many games because I had two
Hmm.
orders, just drew two cards, and then they had to destroy it next turn because they probably feared that I had another Feign Death. And this card is just basically a win
Hmm.
more times 11 type of card. And
Hmm.
and so many people didn't really think of hunters using this because there have been a lot of people that just played it safe with these beast sort of, like deck. But the ones that are just too tired of what's it called of Undertaker decks have have migrated to, mech type of decks. But they realize that cards like Metal Tooth Leaper isn't really that well. I tried playtesting it and I had a tough time, combining that with the whole other beast cards, which sometimes when I had the beast cards drawn, I would rather get like a mech card, but I couldn't draw it. And then when I get a mech card, I want like a beast card instead. And it's either you go all in for some aspects of Hunter or you go all out. But for the most part, Hunter is just
Hmm.
pretty strong format. It's up there with Priest.
Alrighty. Let's move on to Mage. Alright, so I think Mage got some pretty good cards in this expansion. Slim Cannon is really good. I mean, I don't want to go into each individual card because we did that on the previous episode, but I mean, I think Flame Cannon is really good. Unstable Ghoul is very good. Snow Chugger is a nice lead into Water Elemental and it helps deal with early game. Flute Spear, I mean, you know, whatever. It's a 3/3 with spell damage. It's fine. Um, I think the Legendary isn't good. I mean, it's kind of funny. Just you draw a card that Baron gets the entire board, but it's not, it's not really something you're ever going to use. Um, I think I don't know. Echo of Medivh and Unstable Portal probably have the potential to be pretty insane, but I don't know um, how much use you'll get out of Echo. Um, but I mean, overall, I think Mage got some pretty good cards in this expansion. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, the Blast Mage is really, really good actually. Um, I've been playing a lot on
Yeah.
ladder, and it's like I've been running into this mage mech deck a lot, and like the Blast Mage is pretty good. The
Hmm.
Snow Chugger just replaces the Water Elemental. I don't really see people playing Water Elemental all that much anymore. I've only been seeing the Snow Chugger
Interesting.
just because like on 2 mana it does like the same effect. It's a mech. It's a 2/3. It doesn't get killed early. It has like lots of synergy with your deck. Whereas Water Elemental is like a 3/4. Like I haven't seen many people running Ice Lance either. So it's kind of like they're just using Snow Chugger as a way to like stop weapons and stuff, and just as like a good value mech minion. Unstable Portal, I
Hmm.
still think the card is like people are just playing it because it's new and it's like it's exciting, but like it's not good. It's just there's like what there's got to be like something like 200 like minion cards I guess in the game right now. So like
Hmm.
it's just way too random, and it's just like it's awesome at times when you're just like when you get there, but then it like most of the time is like average, and then probably like a lot of the time it's just bad. So and you have to pay like you have to pay a 2 mana investment to play it as well. So it's like you fall like pretty far behind, especially if the card's like not good at all. So yeah, and Echo of Medivh I got owned by that card with Molten Giants, but like it'll happen to you, I guess. So I think, but the biggest cards are the Snow Chugger and the Blast Mage. I think.
Hmm. Um, so I mean, I know. So you just said like the water elementals have
I
been
just haven't
dropped.
seen any. I don't know if
Um,
like people are
that was,
dropping them, but like in the games that I played against the mage, which is probably like 25, 30, I guess. Like it's the deck I've played against the
Hmm.
most, and I haven't seen one water elemental.
Okay. Well, what I was gonna bring up was like I think mages and paladins probably have the most four drops as class cards, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think maybe they should have found a different slot for some of these? Like, do you think adding more four drops that they're gonna want to run? Like, well, I guess no one's running
Yeah.
spell stopper, but do you think maybe filling in more four drops for them was a good idea, or should they have maybe played around with the mana cost a little bit with
Um,
mage cards?
no, I think it's fine. Like the problem is like is so if they like let's say they make like Blast Mage like a 5 mana cost card, right? Just to facilitate
Hmm.
curve, then like what's its attack and power? Are they gonna make it like a 5 mana 6/5? You know what I mean? Like it's like how
Hmm.
like they create the cards in a certain way that like their mana cost is already like factored into how well they do. I don't really think like they concern themselves too much with like because like it's not the fact that like all of the cards cost four. It's just like the good ones are costing four, and like that's not something that they can
Hmm.
be like, oh, we have to make a good cost three card because they don't have any. That's not really something they concern
Right.
themselves with. So it's like it just happens to be that Consecration's a good card, True Silver Palette or True Silver Champion's a good card. Like it just happens to be that way.
Hmm.
So
Okay, that's true. Yeah. Tiago, how do you feel about mage in this expansion?
Well, I really feel that the it, the archetypes mage had before the expansion got a little bit more interesting with some cards like Flame Cannon. It's a good removal for board control. Deep Chugger. People really feel that, like it's more work to run the Snow Chugger over the Water Elemental because of the max synergy, and it's much cheaper. I think it's fine, uh, but I really feel people overestimate this card a little bit. Like when I play Warrior against Mech Mage, it's just so easier to remove a Snow Chugger rather than removing a Water Elemental. So I really appreciate people run this. The Blast Mage is pretty fine. I like it. It's great for dealing damage, extra damage with a battle price, pretty much a spell and a minion altogether. I think Soot Spear is underwhelming. Unstable Portal is too random. I think people run it as a gamble card. Echo of Medivh is very interesting for Giant Mage. Spell Stopper, I don't know why would I run it. And Flame Leviathan is just unlike, hey, I got a card. I'm gonna waste 7 mana next turn, so let's just do 2 damage for everything. I like the cards. I think they're interesting, and yeah, that's it.
Noah, how do you feel about mage in this expansion?
Your without sound.
No,
Mike
I can't.
Mike muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
There we go. And chat probably wasn't lying this time.
Okay.
Mike was muted. So I'm actually really happy about these cards. I've always had a lot of fun playing mid-range mage. Um, and there's a lot that I could talk about a lot of these cards, but I think mid-range is really strong. I think it's really fun. I think that it had, aggro mage. I think there was freeze mage. I think mid-range has now become a thing because of these cards. So Flame Cannon, huge tempo. Goblin Blast Mage, huge tempo. Echo of Medivh, if you have board control and tempo, it lets you refill your hand with sticky and good strong minions. Snow Chugger, in addition to the freeze, this will allow you to weapon lock your opponent, and I think that's really, really good. And I think cards like Blingatron, guys, it's not just me. Colento is actually today in his tournament played, double Snow Chugger with Water Elemental and Harrison Jones and Blingatron. And the idea was you play Blingatron, you're freezing him every turn one way or another, whether you're frost lancing his face or snow chuggering him, and then he's not going to be able to use his weapon. And then eventually you draw off of Harrison Jones or anyway. I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool card. I think that Warrior's really popular. I think it's a cool card. Now, Unstable Portal. This card is insane, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to use the logic that Raynad used. So what Raynad basically said was that if there was a card that you could play, and 99% of the time it would win you the game, would you play it? The answer is yes. Yes, you would. That's why people play Hunter. Anyway, if there was a card that won you 1% out of 99 times that you used it, you wouldn't play it. However, there is a point where a card like this would be balanced, which sits around 15%. And the likeliness of this bringing you out a card that will win you the game is probably a great deal over 15%. Probably at about like 30%. And like worst comes to worst, you play a 2-mana like 1-drop. You know what I mean? Like while that's not good, you also can play 2 of them in your deck, so you have 2 chances to just automatically win you the game. This thing could pull legendaries. This minion can pull class cards. This can pull high tempo cards, high value cards, or it can whiff. But at the same time, it's 2 deck slots. You have a over 50% chance, probably I would think around like 30%, 35% chance to play something either neutral or game winning. And I think it's a really cool card. And I think fun things are going to happen. Flame Cannon, Tempo. Flame Leviathan, draw it turn 3 against Zoo or Hunter, win the game. Draw it turn like a million playing Freeze Mage with an Ice Block up, you kill yourself. Weave Spell Stopper, no one's going to play it, and then Strifo is going to play it in a tournament once, and everyone's going to be like, oh my god, Strifo, like, you're the best player ever. And there's never going to see tournament play ever again. The end.
Yeah, the Spell Stopper seems like that that ice champion from Nexramas. Like he's adjacent minions can't be targeted or something. Like, so I mean, it's interesting.
Also,
I just don't see it
just real quick. Everyone hates this card. Everyone's like, oh my god, it's the 2/2, but a 3/3 version. I actually think that this card might have some place. No one's gonna play it, but I think I'm gonna try playing it. Because one, a 3/3 body actually trades well, or at least better than a 2/2 body that loses to everything. So I think 3/3 body is okay, relatively resilient, can trade with things that deal 3. And also, I was playing before the expansion a deck that ran the much forgotten card, Arcane Explosion, deal 1 damage to everything. And I was running this with Thalnos and Double Azure, and I was playing it with things like the Apprentice. And I think that having one of these out on the board and playing that 2 damage to all minions for 2 mana with spell power on the board, that's like a 2-mana consecration. More spell power on the board, it's a good board wipe. I think this is better than people are giving credit for.
And Pablo, how do you feel about Mage in this expansion?
So when this expansion got leaked with all these class legendaries, I honestly thought Flame Leviathan leak was actually a pretty bad, card that someone made up. But I was really surprised when it turned out to be a real card. I actually think it's like one of the worst legendaries, released so far, because most oftentimes its draw effect when you draw it can set you back up a turn, and can give your opponent, the advantage of like winning the game. And I do enjoy its stats, 7/7 for 7. But if given the option of including that, like legend over like some other legend, I'd rather go for another similar card with same stats, which is called like Dr. Boom. And yeah, but with Echo of Medivh, I actually compared this to Feign Death, as in if you have a potential setup of even, I don't know, like 1 card or 2 cards that can like be used with it, it can honestly just win you the game right there. Because like, why would you not want to play this card if you run powerful legendaries? Because then you can bypass the whole like legend rule of having only one of them. Let's see. We use Spell Stomper. This girl is destroying like a lot of matches in arena. Y- y- She can't really be stopped at all. But in constructed, there's just a lot of ways to like get around her. I do enjoy that they gave her like 5 health to get around some like AoE effects. But at the same time,
Hmm.
she just lacks any effort of doing stuff alone. She needs like people to like back her up. Now, Goblin Blast
Hmm.
Mage I think, is one of the really good cards in this set. Deal 4 damage randomly split among all enemies is really powerful. I actually enjoy this type of effect way better than any other like Mad Bomber type of card because at least you have a chance of not hitting yourself by accident by random, but you always ensure that you get some value of it from doing exactly what you need to do, which is hitting your opponent and not yourself. Its stats are actually pretty well done,
Hmm.
pretty well made for its 4 mana curve. But I'll just wait to see if this card can see more play. Let me see. So Suit Spear, it's pretty average at best. I do like that they gave us more. That spell damage +1 really helped a lot because it can potentially promote more mages to use them more if they are going heavy into all of these new like damaging spells that we're getting. But for the most part, I would rather like skip using this card and construct it altogether. It's obvious that Snow Chugger is really an all-star, in almost every type of format, like arena or just constructed. And I really had no idea that people were replacing this over, like water like elemental. I thought that they could like coexist with each other, but I can understand that if they want to get the same effects earlier, like why not? And Unstable Portal is auto include in my opinion, just because of its last effect of it costs 3 mana less. Yeah, I know the drawback is random, but you're
Hmm.
basically getting something, like at a much better pace. And it could go, it can go from useless to a chicken that costs 0 mana to a 5 mana like Ragnaros. And as other people have said, you have two choices and two chances. Flame Cannon, I honestly
Hmm.
think like Blizzard made this card as sort of a police type of tactic against what's it called? Goblin Auctioneer. Just to say, yeah, just to say,
Yeah.
so we made this card that does 4 damage exactly to a random card. Just as more ways to, sorry, like more reasons not to include that card ever again since it got nerfed. But besides that, it just gave mages more options for damaging spells. Because after they use up, like fireballs and flame strike, like what else is there?
That's it for the mage cards. Um, okay, so let's move on to paladin. Okay, so I've never been a big fan of paladin. I don't know. I just feel like their whole job is to castrate your opponent in like throughout the entire game, like with like humility and equality and stuff like that, and then heal yourself out of range of everything, and then by the end you still have a chance to lose. I've just never really cared about paladin, but I think even though I think the legendary is flawed, I think in general, uh, I'm actually interested in trying paladin. I think Coghammer is really good. Quartermaster is a little slow, but I mean he has potential to be really good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, since Paladin goes into late game most of the time anyway, Quartermaster might be fine depending on the deck. Shield of Anybody just a great card because of the Divine Shield. Scarlet Purifier, hit and miss. Since it hits all minions instead of just any minions, there's it depends on your deck and what I mean, in a way, I feel like Naxxramas sort of made this card obsolete in advance because Haunted Creeper and like if your opponent has Haunted Creeper or Egg on the field, it's a problem to use Scarlet Purifier. So in a way, that card became like obsolete before it was even announced. But it depends on what's on the board. Buster for battle is really good. Like getting that much value out of a card is great, and the 1/4 weapon's not great, but I mean again, you're paying 3 mana for 3 hero powers and a weapon. It's not bad. And um, Cobalt Cobalt's not good. I mean, it would be if it were a 5/4 or if it were a 3/6, but you know. I think the stats are just too top heavy for what it does. Shield of Light's good. I think taking a small hit on the health gain to get the extra two attack is really important to be able to deal with like early game. Like just healing for six is not a big. It's like that doesn't do anything. But if you can heal for four and kill something, I think that's a more important swing in health than just healing for six and sitting back and waiting to be attacked again. Jordan, how do you feel about the paladin this
I don't really
expansion?
like Paladin as a general class. Like I just don't really like a lot of the cards they
Hmm.
have. Like it's just like and like in the expansion I kind of just feel like it's like they were like, "Oh, like Paladin's not very good, so let's just make them like really really good cards." Like Muster for Battle, like an example. So Unleash the Hounds, which used to cost 2, was conditional on your opponent having minions on the board, and it only spawned one ones equal to the amount of minions that your opponent conditionally had on the board. It gave like they have charge, sure,
Hmm.
but like I feel like the only reason Unleash the Hounds got nerfed was because it was in the class that was like the best. You know what I mean? Like,
I think the charge part
but
is
like
relevant though. I
Muster,
mean, being able to attack
but
that
like
turn
here's the
is
problem, right? Like
really
at
important.
most
But
times, like Unleash the Hounds, unless you were combining it with like Leroy and other things, like was only getting like two
hmm
minions. You know what I mean? So you're paying 2 mana for two 1/1 charge
hmm
minions. Whereas Muster for Battle is
right.
always gonna you're always paying 3 mana. You're always gonna get 3/1/1s, and you get a 1/4 weapon. Like no matter your opponent
Hmm.
could have nothing on the board, and it's just like you pay 3, you get 3/1/1s and a 1/4 weapon. Okay, like I just don't understand why how they can justify changing a card like Unleash the Hounds when and then print this card. It's like I understand that
Hmm.
the charge is relevant, but the charge is only relevant because the class is like an aggro class. You know what I mean? Like if it was just
hmm
I don't know. I just don't see why they would print Muster for Battle if they're gonna just keep nerfing Unleash the Hounds. But that's them, I guess. Um, Minibot I think
hmm
is like really really good. Or the card's really really good. Um, the rest of them I'm not too happy about, but it's just because I hate Paladin as a whole. So I don't really like Paladins at all. So they can all just die. Like I said, replace Paladin with Death Knight.
Assault.
Like just take out the Paladin class, and they're like, oh, they went bad. Replace them with Death Knights, please. Like I'd rather just have Death Knight as a class than Paladin. I don't. Paladin is just I was playing against this like probably on ladder like the last like 5 games I played was all against like this random ass Paladin deck with like Muster for Battle, and they're like, I'm gonna make three threes, and I'm like, that's great, fine. You know what? I'm just gonna play Face Hunter, and there's nothing you can do. You can make three threes all you want because I'm just gonna make hounds that kill you. Like, so this guy's sitting with like he's got like 3 tokens that have been quartermastered. He's got his little 1/1 thing. It's like turn 4. He's at like 12. I'm just like unleash. It's like my turn 6. I'm like unleash, kill command your face. Like you're at 2. Go. Like I'm still at 30. You can't kill me. Like I click my hero power. You lose. Like it just. I'm just like whatever. They just want to keep making good paladin cards. Paladins it's not the best control deck and it's not the best aggro deck. So like whatever. Paladin sucks.
hmm Uh, Tiago, how do you feel about Paladin in this
I really
expansion?
feel like they tried to.
Tiago, his video froze. Hold on a second. I'm trying to add him back to the call. While we're waiting, Pablo, how do you feel about Paladin in
I
this
feel like a
expansion?
lot of their cards are pretty much created just to give them like early game type of like advantage because if you ask I don't know like the majority of the community they would say that Paladin is actually one of the weakest classes when it was in classic mode. But right now, I'm really happy that they included Seal of Light and Shielded like Minibot because it gave them that extra push in the times where turn two or turn three, it could either be, like just hero power until turn four or five when they can actually use some of their bigger minions. But so before this, the only type of deck archetype was Control Paladin. Like that's the only one I've seen. But these cards added some new, like styles of deck, actually like decks that I've seen so far. Like Mech Paladin actually destroyed me because I honestly thought that I was gonna face the same amount of cards, but no, they actually took a complete different strategy and staple cards that I thought would be, staple forever. Like what else? Like
Hmm.
the like Guardian card. They actually didn't play that, and they played some other cards instead, like included like more mechs, and it really like blew me away. Scarlet Purifier, while people may not include it because maybe your opponent will never even play a Death Rattle decks or some cards like that, but even with if you don't make use of its effect, it's still a three for a 4/3. Like its stats are pretty good, even if it does nothing. Boulevard for Dragon,
Hmm.
I'm really disappointed with this because I don't want to, like start out my game, like, praying that this card is in my first hand, because then if I draw this during a critical moment, like during turn eight, which can win me the game, which can make me lose. And if I draw into this, it's useless. What I summon it the first turn, it's a 1/7 for five. It's not gonna do anything. And even those times where I did have in my first hand, I'd probably be facing Face Hunter, and then I'll probably lose by turn five. Like not even like using it.
Hmm.
Quartermaster is another type of win more card. It's useless until that precise moment, so I can't really say. It's like a coin flip. Let me see. Muster for battle. Actually, very surprised by the value that Blizzard made, for this type of card. I see it as, let me see, so counting by the 3/1/1s and the 1/4 weapon, I see a potential of a 4/7 type of value card if you add up all of them together. And I know that yeah, they're monsters, so your opponent will obviously use ways to destroy your monsters, more often than your weapon. But it still does create some aggro, even then, they don't have charge on the first turn or summon. Your opponent will still see it as a threat, and they will use some sort of effect or clear out, with the other minions. Just so on your turn you don't use them against you in a smarter way. Um, so speaking of the other decks I've been facing with Paladin, a lot of them have been using Coghammer, but only just to include that 2 mana 4/5 card that can't attack. Yeah, that
Ancient
one. They've
Watcher.
been
Yeah.
using that with that.
Hmm.
And I was like, I was thinking, why would you revolve around a 2 card combo? But for some reason, they always drew it a lot, and they always made use of it. And even if they didn't have Ancient Watcher, they made use of some other power play card with like a turn nine. Let me see, Sylvanas combined with Coghammer at the same time. Yeah, it's like alone, but it has all of that, and your opponent is gonna definitely by turn nine use all their resources, and Sylvanas is just like out there just to play. But oh, and also Cobalt Guardian Trash. Yeah, it should be like disenchanted forever. It's, if it was a real card, I would use it as a coaster. Yeah, that's about it. That's,
Yeah, I mean, one Skype is really screwing up here. Um, yeah, one thing about Paladin now I hear from people is they oh, okay, one second. Tiago had a blackout, so I mean he'll be back. Um, so soon, hopefully. But the one thing I hear about Paladin is that they basically hero power to turn four when they finally get going. So like the inclusion of cards like Shielded Mini Bots and Seal of Light and Scarlet Purifier, Clockhammer, Muster for Battle, it actually gives Paladin something to do for the first couple of turns rather than just sitting there waiting. So I think I think well, I'm not a huge fan of Paladin. I think they got some good cards in expansion that filled a hole that they needed filled. So I think it's good. Um,
oh, Ken.
Hey,
Tiago,
Okay.
hey, I'm back.
hello.
Can I mention that Seal of
Okay.
Light will forever replace Holy Light?
I think I definitely think it's a better card. I've seen some people run both. But I do agree. Still, Light is a better card. Uh,
Yeah,
Tiago, can you hear
can
me?
you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can't see your camera. I'm gonna remove you from the call and add you back. 1 second.
Hey,
Okay, you're back. Noah, is Noah back? No. Okay. Let's move on.
Isn't Priest next?
Yeah.
Yes, we're on to Priest. So I think Priest got the best cards in expansion. Um, and Vol'jin is definitely the best card and the best legendary. I love that card, like
Yeah.
because I saw the card was leaked, and I loved it even then. Then like I crafted it when the expansion, you know, was available, and he's exceeded expectations. He's a fantastic card. Um, I sort of turned the corner on Light Bomb. At first, I just was unimpressed, but then the thing about Priest is that their minions are all bottom heavy. You know, you're trying to increase their health over time with, like Dark Cultist's Death Rattle, Power Word Shield, etc. So a lot of the times, Light Bomb will kill your opponent's minions, but not yours, or just damage them. So you can get some pretty good board clears with that for 6 mana, which is not bad. So actually, at first I didn't like the card so much, but now since I've tried it, I'm actually like it. I don't think it's amazing. I just think it's really good. I think it's good. I should say. Um, I've not tried Shadowboxer that much. It's okay. It's a good card. Villain's Chosen. I think I've seen a lot of people running two of them. I think that's a little bit much. I'd say just run one. I've not used Shadow Bomber. Um, I mean, we talked before about how they're trying to give classes new archetypes. So obviously Shadow Bomber is an aggro card. I just wonder if including just one aggro card is the best way to go about it. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they'll do more in the future, but I'm just thinking, like, is that one card supposed to spark like some sort of seed in priest to do aggro? It seems like you need a little bit more than just the one. Like with Warlock, they have Void Walker and Flame Imp and Soulfire and stuff like and Power Overwhelming. Like they have multiple tools that are class cards that they can use for aggro. Um, Including just the one for priest seems kind of odd to me. I mean, they can include more in the future, but it seems they should have been at least one or two other cards that were sort of geared toward aggro if they wanted to make that an archetype. Um, Shrinkmeister, I don't know. That card seems to sit in my hand more often than not. Like, because I always want to try to combo them, and then I end up never getting the chance. Uh, and Repair Bot's a good card for mech if you're running a mech priest. But other than that, it's just standard. It's fine. Um, but overall, I think Priest got the best of this expansion. I mean, I think I would say every card is good. I mean, Shadow Bomber is a good one for aggro, even though I don't think aggro Priest is viable yet. But when it becomes viable, it'll be a good card. So I think Priest got the best of the expansion. What do you think,
I
Jordan?
think Priest got the best class cards, but I think like overall as a deck, it didn't get the most. The thing that the
Hmm.
thing that I found about Priest is that like the reason why it was like really good like in like the most previous like latter season was because like it like knew what it was gonna like it knew what it wanted to do and like which decks it wanted to
Hmm.
like play against. You know what I mean? So I've been finding that like
Hmm.
um I've tried to play Priest like multiple different ways. I tried like a super like heavy control variant. I tried like just like the normal priest variant. I've tried like aggro, but like what I found is like it's not the best aggro deck, it's not the best control deck, and it's like not the best mid range deck either. So like it just like
Hmm.
it's not the best at doing like anything, but like I think in a meta that's like defined, it could be like fairly good. So like if the meta is like
Hmm.
I don't know, like very heavy like zoo and like hunter, you can like tune the deck towards playing against those, right? So like you won't play Shadow Word Death. You like maybe play the second Cabal. You don't play Mind Control. You play Wild Pyros for sure, like kind of like that. Whereas like if it's like more of like a control meta, you're playing like Double Shadow or Death. You're probably playing like one Mind Control, probably no more. You're probably playing one or zero Cabals. So like I think Priest just when the meta becomes more like known, I think Priest becomes better. But right now I actually think it's pretty bad, especially for getting like the most exciting class cards. I think like
Hmm.
it's just not in a good spot right now. So
Okay. Tiago, how do you feel about Priest in
I'll
this
just
expansion?
go back to Paladin very, very briefly. I was just about to say that uh,
Oh, okay.
Blizzard kind of
Yeah.
tried to fix long-time problems from Paladin, and they still didn't fix at all. So it's still pretty bad. Even though Paladin's my favorite class, it's kind of unplayable sometimes. So about Priest, I really like the cards. They are cards that play very well alone, like uh, the Balance Chosen spell is really useful in Arena. It's really, really strong. And in Constructed, I
Hmm.
feel that sometimes Shrinkmeister is a little bit, how can I say it? It's overrated because most times people want to save it for a combo, but they realize that combo might come too late, and that kind of screws up
Hmm.
their tempo. And sometimes people just play that on nothing against me, and that's really good because they lose value. But overall, I really like the priest cards. Vol'jin is I really like the card. It's one of the best cards in the set as a whole. But I still didn't found much trouble dealing with it. Even though it's awesome, it's also not hard to deal with him. So yeah, I think it's a really good set for priest, but not really that awesome like I was expecting it to be when I first saw the cards.
Hmm. Pablo, how do you feel about the Priest in this
I
expansion?
felt like Blizzard felt so guilty, to know that Priest used to be so bad pre-Nax that they just gave them like all the good cards, and it's so true because pre-Nax, if you ask, so are you ever gonna play Priest, and they would just laugh at your face, like honestly, you would never see a ranked Priest unless you see that guy like mistakenly click his troll Priest deck to play in ranked, and then he's just trolling you because he knows like he's gonna lose. But aside from that. Vol'jin is the first legendary I crafted in this new set, and he obviously is the best one they created. Like I saw him in the spoiler as well. I thought it was fake. It's too good. But no, like when it turned out to be real, I'm like, oh my gosh, like 5 mana for that, and then I could potentially target that, and like, I don't know, maybe like late game, if I have like a Ragnar, I don't have Shadow or Death, I can just steal his life, and he becomes a problem card, and then I can do what, like 2 damage. That's so easy to destroy it. Um, I've been seeing a lot of like control mech decks with upgraded repair bot, and the reason they upgraded repair bot and Void are obviously good cards because they have instant value the second they're on the board instead of waiting for your opponent to, I don't know, like not have an answer for you on their turn to destroy those cards. And the bodies of both of these cards as well aren't really that bad with with their mana cost included. I agree that Shrinkmeister is a very good card, but it's too combo heavy. And turn two play, if I had nothing else, most likely I would not even use a Shrinkmeister, and I would lose, a turn two tempo. But when you do have that wonderful combo, and the dream does happen, you don't want to wake up from it. So let's see, Light of the
Hmm.
Naru. This card is amazing because it's so many like synergy. Even when you're healing, it can still help you with if you have the wounded out card. Pre like usually use Blade Master or whatever. Even when you summon another card and you're still gonna heal the entire game, that card just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Your opponent might just get so pissed off by it that they might use like a removal spell on it. Even if you don't even heal it and you have the priest out, the soul priest, whatever, if it does damage your opponent, you still summon minion. But Shadow Bomber, I felt like
Hmm.
Blizzard mistake the like rarity between that and Shrinkmeister. I felt like Shrinkmeister could have the epic and still be played, but Shadow Bomber doesn't feel like a good card. It feels like with I don't know, it feels like a white card.
Hmm.
It has one mana or 2/1 to deals 3 damage at the start, with summon. But aside from that, it loses its value when you summon the card. After that, you just don't even care about it. So villain shows, I've been seeing a lot of plays with the card, and to be honest, the opponents that I keep facing, they keep using it on their a card that I think would never ever be used against. Like, I'll give you an example. They use it on, let's see, oh, the Blade Master, but it's obviously gonna be destroyed anyway, so there's like no point on it. Shadow Boxer, its
Hmm.
ads and its body correlate with it pretty well, but there's just way better options, and it's of course its constant effect is there to synergize with hero power as well, but it needed to have much more to compete. And I saw Light Bomb and I saw instant, win against what was it? Handlock. Like just instant wins. But as many times,
Hmm.
like when are you gonna face Handlock? And even if you are facing Warlock, 9 times out of 10 it's usually, Zoo. So for the most part, all of these cards have been really well to promote Priest, and they're finally at a place where, I can actually use a deck and do pretty well with it.
Hmm. Alrighty, let's. So we lost Tiago again. Again, he's having some connection issues where he's like it's a bad storm going on. So we'll work on getting him back. Let's move on though to Rogue. So I mean, obviously, I mean, as we all know, like between Nax uh, and this expansion, they've pretty much destroyed Miracle. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a way you can make Miracle viable, but they've added anti-auctioneer cards and then also
Yep.
nerfed auctioneer, which I think is a bit overkill. Um, it's yeah, I mean, you can just do one or the other. They did both for some reason. Uh, I don't. I mean, I think the mech cards are good. I don't think the pirate's good. Um, the 4 mana spells are surprisingly good, even though I think they might be a little overpriced. But maybe that's why they're 4 mana because I mean I've had sabotage used against me effectively multiple times. It's actually pretty
Yeah.
devastating. So I guess maybe 4 mana is actually the correct price. I don't know. It seems expensive, but I mean the tempo gain that you get from that is actually probably worth it. Uh, and Ogre Ninja is it's a beefed up Stranglethorn that can attack through taunt. I mean it's it's fine. It's a good card. I think the legendary I'm not sure what archetype this would create or fits in, but I mean it's just a good card on its own, just because of stats and you know a one-sided lore rocket show is obviously pretty powerful. It's gonna be hard, definitely hard to deal with that card. So Jordan, how do you feel about Rogue in this expansion?
Mm, I feel like the thing that hurt Rogue the most was that the tink or the auctioneer got nerfed. Um, the thing was
Hmm.
like they changed conceal from a 0 mana spell to a 1 mana spell, which like kind of like okay, that's like fine in itself, but I don't think there's any reason to change the auctioneer from 5 to 6. Like you're only running two of them in your deck, and the whole deck basically revolves around you drawing one. Like sure the game's like the thing is like I feel like they did it because they wanted to limit the amount of like in interactive uninteractive games that you have with your opponent.
Hmm.
But like I think decks like that are fine in the meta. Like I think decks like Miracle, to be honest, are fine in a meta because it's like I don't know. I think it's just like I know they just want to make the game like more like minion oriented. So it's like minions fighting opposed to like I have like two minions in my deck and the rest is all just spells. which is because like they kind of like did the
Mhm.
same thing when they like nerfed all of the freeze cards like way back. They're like because it just made for uninteractive games. But like I think like decks like that are fine because they lose to like the aggro decks in the format or like the really hyper aggressive decks. Like so, I think everything just comes full
Mhm.
circle, and I don't think there was any reason to nerf the auctioneer. So, but the rogue cards, I tried the mech deck with the Iron Sensei and the Goblin Auto Barber. If you go turn two Annoyatron into Iron Sensei, it's like really good. But other than that, it's not very good. It's not the best mech deck. I think the best mech deck is Mage. Um, the Tinker Sharp
Mhm.
Sword Oil is really good. It's just hard to combo off. But like if you play like on turn 10 in like the like miracle version of decks, you can go like South Sea Deckhand, Tinker Sharp Sword Oil, Faceless, and it's like there's 14 damage right there. So, but like I don't know, Rogue's okay.
Okay. Pablo, how do you feel about Rogue in this
I'm actually
expansion?
really sad because I saw like the Miracle deck and I made Van Cleef, and then with the nerf to Auctioneer, I'm like, so what the hell am I gonna use this for, And I've tried a home for him, but I just can't. Miracle was his only home so far, unless somebody else, like so I've been like planning wrong. But so when it first came out, I made like a Theorcraft deck with like Mechra because I saw Iron Sensei. I'm like, huh, its body and its mana cost, its ability can get out of hand, and it's already has some good value as a turn three play. So why not? So I included him, and most of the time I had that other mech, that like reduce its mana cost, and I got him, like much earlier than suggested by coining it, and
Mhm.
it just kept going out of hand. Every turn I would just random mech, and then they all became like, and then all the cards that started out weak, they eventually all became cards that you would summon with like 4 mana, 5 mana. If your opponent leaves his cards unchecked, he loses the game. And it's quite well, to have a card with
Mhm.
such little mana cost, your opponent is able to waste such, like a useful like burn card, a useful like destroying spell on it. I've actually saw Cogmaster's Wrench and I disenchanted it, but after seeing that the mech rogue type of deck is working, I'm actually considering about adding it in because almost all the time it will have its 3 attack with its 3 durability. So I don't know, there's still some place testing with that. I actually don't like any of the ogre cards. I know that there have been some like miracle games where the opponent only had like an ogre card and it bypassed your opponent's 7 minions with taunts and they won the game. But at the same time, I don't want to lose just because my ogre decided not to attack the Ragnaros with 6 out. Um, the
Mhm.
Tinker's Oil. This card has destroyed me and Pirate Face deck, but only if you keep up your tempo a lot. Because the Pirate deck, if your opponent just sets up with like an board every turn counters, there's no way Pirates can keep up. One I cheat. This card is just Blizzard's way of promoting some, different type of decks associated with classes. Like in the World game, they consider, pirates to be a sort of rogue, just like how they know that Murlocs use nature power, just like like shamans. And when I cheated 2 mana for 4/1, and if you play correctly, it's always stealth, and it's meant to always attack for face. So for what it does, it's a pretty good card.
Mhm.
So Sabotage. I honestly thought that it would be bad because I thought its combo wouldn't work if your opponent didn't have a minion. Actually, if your opponent doesn't have a minion, its combo effect still works. So I'm really
Mhm.
happy for that. Now would I use this over Assassinate? I would honestly take this over Assassinate, even if it's random, because I would just play like that other Hunter card just to show the random minion. But this is just a Harrison Jones type an effect. So like why not? It just depends on the deck. But for a mech rogue deck, I just found no space
Mhm.
for it.
Yeah.
So Goblin Auto Barber, this is like one of the best cards they could have given this, and I'm actually so happy that they gave him this. It kind of makes up for taking away a Goblin Auctioneer because of its huge, let me see, its huge tempo with the weapon plus one attack. And even the stats are pretty good. And just the whole mech like title alone, it can give it a lot of synergy. Now, I said Vol'jin is like the best legendary, but Trade Prince is pretty close, and I think it can be included in any type of like rogue deck because for 6 mana it has 8 health and 5 attack. That's all around a good card. And then yeah, your opponent gets some sort of advantage of a coin, but at best, if your opponent destroys it, you still get it back. Like their spells. But then your opponent is gonna trade
Hmm.
so many creatures just to get around. It's like 8 health of 8 health. So why not? And even if your opponent has nothing but sorry, but even if your opponent has nothing but spells, your opponent can't do anything. So it's just a wall. So I think
Hmm.
Blizzard, like redeemed himself from killing a class deck and giving us more options to go into a more type of like tempo aggro type of sense instead of just I'm drawing all my entire deck, in one turn and destroying like next turn.
Hmm. Alrighty. Let's move on to Shaman. Okay, so I think the biggest issues with Shaman were lack of life gain and card draw. I think Vitality Totem helps a lot. I mean, you don't need two of them, obviously. You can run just one. Um, but I think that Totem was very needed for life gain. They still haven't really solved the card draw issue. I mean, I think the Spirit Walker Murloc is not good. I mean, he's a higher health uh, Cult Master, but I think Cult Master is still better because it's not required to to kill a Murloc in order to draw a card. Neptulon is a really good card. You know, sort of like a sprint with a War Golem, sort of in one. I mean, that doesn't really help the card draw problem either. That's so. I mean, they haven't solved that issue with Shaman of not being able to draw cards enough fast enough against it's like say, aggro. I mean, I guess you can you know a mech Shaman could run Jeeves or something like that. Power Mace is a good mech related weapon. Um, but they didn't really solve the card draw problem. Ancestor's Call has potential, but I mean it's a bit high maintenance. Zephymatic is really good. Crackle is high variance, but I think more often than not it works out for you than works against you. Um, so I mean overall, I think the Shaman cards overall are good, but they didn't solve all of Shaman's issues. Jordan, what do you think?
I like Neptulon, just in like the regular shaman deck. It's a 7/7 for 7, which is pretty hard to deal with. And it gives you four Murlocs. Like
Hmm.
most of the time, even four Murlocs is just like it's just gonna present like a lot of board pressure for most decks. And then
Hmm.
Crackle is pretty good. Nothing else is really that good in Shaman, to be honest. Like the Whirling Zappomatic is just like it's okay, I guess. Like it's your 2 drop that you're gonna play if you're playing mechs, I guess. I think
Hmm.
I'd rather just play the 2 mana 2/3 that make your mechs cost one less. The Power Mace can be clunky because like it's gonna be on the board. So like I kind of had this interaction today where the guy played a 2 cost. He played a 2 cost mech, and then on turn 3 played Power Mace and attacked me, and then I just killed his mech, and he didn't have another mech, so it was just like okay. But yeah, the rest of the cards kind of suck. Sprint Walker's pretty bad. Ancestors Call's really bad. Dune Mall Shaman's probably just not playable. Vitality Totem you'll probably play one, I guess. But yeah, I just think just Crackle and
Hmm.
Neptulon are okay.
Okay. Pablo, how do you feel about Shaman in this
I don't
expansion?
like how every shaman deck I'm facing, I don't even like need to open my eyes to realize that it's like Murloc based. Like I think everybody's just on this Murloc bandwagon, and I realize, because it's that new epic card gave them another type of advantage because before then, Murloc was all about going phase. And if they get destroyed, or if, let me see, or if they need to trade, to kill some other mini just so Shaman can have a turn, they get nothing out of it. So Murloc Spirit Walker is only there as a sort of like a self phase like device. Because what if the mage uses Flame Strike, destroys all of them? Then like you would still draw, and even if it still survives. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry,
I can
sorry,
hear you.
something
Yeah.
like lag. Anyway, so even if it still survives, it still has a way of countering your opponent. Like, your opponent like needs to destroy that as soon as possible. I heard from you, Ken, that you thought that this card was bad, right? It's actually
Which one? I'm sorry.
the Spirit Walker card is that epic Murloc that like draws a card.
I just don't like it because it's 4 mana with Overload. It's same. It does the same job as Cult Master, but more limited. That's all. It's just it's defined as a Murloc, I guess. But I just I feel like it should do more than a Cult Master. Uh, you know, it should be cheaper or
I
something.
don't
You know,
like
considering how
its
limited it is.
I don't like its overload effect. But I do agree that its effect is like its normal effect is really too powerful that they needed to use Overlord or like Overlord at least one of it. But it's just there as insurance, because if your opponent has board wipe, you lose because you can't keep up with the tempo from turn one to turn one, two, and beyond. But
Hmm.
Neptulon, some Murloc decks aren't even using him, even though he's actually meant for one. They just rather use that spot for another type of card. And even in normal Shaman, I would agree to using them as well because he's basically like a +3. Uh, I think every ogre card is just horrible. Even the legendary card, which turns every card into an ogre card, it's still awkward to use. Like, why would I even waste any time and energy into Dunmal Shaman? Even if that's on like Overlord 1, yeah, its Wind Fury is very great, but it's only effective if your opponent has no like cards on the board. And Ancestor's Call,
Hmm.
I would use this in like a casual match to see if playing a match over Skype to see if my opponent has something good or a friend, whatever. But aside from like constructive, no, because you can potentially give them like a winning like legendary that costs so much for free, Like why would you? And Mech
Hmm.
Shaman really doesn't have that many good options right now. I do enjoy that they gave them a good, like weapon because Doomhammer can be good, but it just has the OTK potential or not. But this is like more consistent. Even when it's used off, you still gain some value out of it. But I'm seeing Crackle be a two of every Shaman deck, and I'm surprised because I thought people would not be using this because of how random it is. But no, they actually
Hmm.
don't care, and they would rather include it because from my luck, they would always get 5 and 6, and that just pisses me off. But yeah, Whirling Zapomatic. This is an all-star in Shaman Arena. It's always a first pick over pretty much most of them, besides Hex, of course. Let me see. But yeah,
Hmm.
like it would be overpowered if we got another mech card for better synergy. It's still an overall good card, and you're right about a Vitality Totem being there. For Shaman Alfgain, because most of the time when I was facing a Shaman while playing Freeze Mage, I was like, like I win because once I, um, I'm Alexstrasza the Shaman, he has no other cards to like gain his health back.
Hmm. Alrighty, so let's move on to I think we're what Warlock. Okay, so yeah, so two more classes. Uh, all right, so Warlock. So I think Warlock's got. Uh, I think Dark Bomb's a much needed addition, especially with the Soulfire nerf. I think Dark Bomb's really good. One second. Um, I think I think making like I think they wanted to make Demon Lock a more viable like mid range option for Warlock. You can obviously have aggro zoo and control hand locks. I think pretty much every card they introduce is geared more toward mid range, and I think most of them are good. I think Implosion, I don't know. Every time it's used against me, it always gets four for some reason. It's really irritating. But I think the variance is too high. Fell Cannon is sort of hit and miss. But everything else I think is okay. What do you think, Jordan? How do you think Warlock did in this expansion?
I think there's a new deck made for Warlock. It's like really the only class I can say like definitively that the deck's actually pretty good too. With Mal'Ganis,
Hmm.
the demons are pretty big. It's pretty good. The thing about Warlock is like Warlock will be good as long as they keep making cards that are like efficient one for one cards, right? Because the hero power is just so
Hmm.
busted and it's just so much better than the rest of them. Like drawing cards on a hero power is just it's just too good, honestly. The hero power is just too good. And like you can like Reynad right now is just using some gimmicky warlock deck because he literally just said he's like this hero power is just really good. So I'm just gonna play a bunch of one for one removal spells and like some type of combo to deal, anywhere from like 12 to 16 damage in a turn. And like I'm just gonna out hero power them basically. And like it is like the hero power is just
Hmm.
so much better than every class. So when they make cards like Dark Bomb, it's like, whoa, it's just efficient. And Mal'Ganis is pretty good, but like I'm not really impressed with
Hmm.
anything else. The Anima Golem's pretty bad because like you don't even have to interact
Hmm.
with it for it to die. Demon Heart's pretty bad. Floating Watcher's really good in Arena. Um, I haven't really seen
Hmm.
it any playing constructed. Fell Cannon's fairly bad. Again, Warlock's not the best mech deck, so Implosion could be decent. I think with spell power makes it like really good. And then Mistress of Pain, you probably played in the demon deck, so yeah, that's my opinion.
Hmm. Pablo, how do you feel about Warlock
I felt
in this
like
expansion?
older players finally got their dream come true, making a demon deck with, better options. But once they got, their dream come true, they
Hmm.
realized that they'd rather be sleeping instead. Because most of these cards, they're
Hmm.
not really up to curve. Like Mal'Ganis is amazing, it's all around good stats and its mana cost is pretty high, but it makes your hero immune. But just by playing him, you're bounded to play a demon deck, but then you see all the other like demon options, and they really don't cut it. Like Floating Watcher has a
Hmm.
slow tempo, and but most of the time it comes out too late. And then turn six, your opponent can obviously destroy easily before you just stack it up with your Warlock hero power. And then like Demon Heart, yeah, I know it's meant to buff your demons, but how many times are you like ever gonna use that? Most of the time you're trying to use card for card trade just to get the advantage over your opponent. And even when I still have the advantage,
Hmm.
why would I waste it? I would rather just have it in my hand to deal that final five damage to my opponent's monster, instead of going all in and like
Hmm.
overstacking with my cards. Anima Golem is actually a card that found a home in Zoo, which I'm actually so surprised. And Zoo's weakness is getting its like stuff destroyed like instantly. And even if you don't even destroy all of them,
Hmm.
Anima Golem's effect can be like a disadvantage. I understand that for its mana cost, its stats are way way too good, but I really don't think that its stats equals to its effect quite well. I wanted to work with Fel Cannon, but its high mana cost with its ability at the end is really restricts me with playing an all mech deck unless I want to hurt myself in the process, which I really don't want to. And Implosion it causes way too much, and even if you have found a way to deal like extra spell power damage, they're still 1/1 end, and it just hurt that it's at random. Like if it was like 4 mana for deal 4 damage and summon 4 imps, I would love that a lot. Like consistent imps.
It'd be
Let me
too
see. So
good.
Dark Bomb,
Hmm.
yeah, it'd be too good. It'd be probably epic. Um, so yeah, like Dark Bomb, one I see play in almost every deck, and it's because people just were kind of hurt or sad that Soulfire got nerfed, and most of them took out Soulfire just to get Dark Bomb instead, because it's 2 mana for 3. That's not bad. It's pretty much above the curve, and I saw Mistress of Pain when it got released, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this card is gonna be amazing with Demon Heart and the other Demon buff card, but then. No, I'd rather use the other cards as defensive rather than go offensive. And it's just Mistress of Pain, the tempo required for it. I'd rather get a legendary or just another card that just has the base amount of high stats on instead of like growing it. That's just what I think.
Hmm. Alrighty, let's move on to Warrior. It's the last. So I think Warrior got some pretty good cards. I think I was more excited about the Warrior cards when they were announced than after like the expansion came out. I mean, I think Shield Maiden is still very good. Um, as good as I thought it was going to be. Bouncing Blade. I mean, now you can't play one main against Warrior anymore because they just Bouncing Blade it and kill it. Like I had my injured Blade Master at 4/7 killed by a Bouncing Blade. It's really irritating. I don't think Warbot's that great. Iron Juggernaut. I when that card was announced, I thought it was insane. I still think it's really good because it's sort of like your opponent has to like sort of play Russian roulette with their deck. It's probably really good against handlock, but it's not like it's an essential thing for Warrior. It doesn't really do a whole lot. It's a delayed Pyro Blast, which is fine, but doesn't really help help you a whole lot. And the mechs are okay. It's just I feel like when these cards were announced, I was more excited about them than when I actually saw them in play in the expansion. I still think overall Warrior got some good stuff. It's just not as good as I originally thought. Jordan, what do you think?
I've been playing Warrior a lot on ladder actually, and I think Warrior is just
Hmm.
the best deck right now. Like probably by quite a
Hmm.
bit, to be honest with you. Like, and it's mostly for a card that's
Hmm.
like not even Warrior card, and that's Doctor Boom. Like when I
Hmm.
for when the first podcast we did, I said that Vol'jin was probably the best card in the set. I think Doctor Boom is actually probably the best card in the set. It's like very,
Hmm.
very, 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 very good. And it's a 7 mana 7/7 always that summons 2/1/1s. And like the 1/1s are really, really relevant a lot of the time. And like
Hmm.
at first, like I just kind of like put it in there because I was just wanted to see how it worked out. And there's actually a lot of synergies in the warrior deck with it, and as well as explosive sheep as well. So it's like because you can play like
Right.
explosive
Yeah.
sheep whirlwind, just kills the mech decks. Like it deals 3 to everything. Like explosive sheep plus the whirlwind effect from Death Bite. With the Doctor Boom tokens, it works the same way. So like if you play Doctor Boom and then whirlwind or sorry, use the Death Bites charge and whirlwind the tokens away, it's really good. Shield Maiden's really good.
Hmm.
Like a 6 mana 5/5. She's like pretty good cost. And then when she comes into play, she gains you 5 armor. It's relevant for 2 reasons. It's relevant for Shield Slam. It gives you another kind of like Shield Slam uh, like combo, and it's just really good against aggro decks too. So yeah, I think Warrior
Hmm.
Bouncing Blade was a card that like we had discussed that like okay, I'm not playing any. I don't really like it at all to be honest with you. And same with Crush. I just Execute and Shield Slam are just way better. But yeah, I think Warrior's the best class right now, and it's like not even close. So
Hmm. Pablo, how do you feel about Warrior in this expansion?
I agree that Control Warrior is really, really strong now, and I'm really surprised with the way Blizzard handled it because the way they worded this expansion is they wanted more like diversity, but they like indirectly or probably just like directly buffed like an already like winning formula even stronger. Like I see Crush as like your 2 extra executes, and I'm actually surprised that people aren't using this card. It's honestly the best like destroy spell because most of the time Warrior has access to execute, but like what happens if if that monster has no damage and it's like useless, and Crush is there because as another option,
The only problem with
it
Crush
pretty
is
much,
like
yeah.
Hmm.
is having the damaged minion on the board. Like when I was like starting out playing Control Warrior, I originally had kept both the armor smiths in, and now
Mhm.
like I'm down to like either zero or one armor smith. Like I just don't think armor smith's really good. Like Fiery Wind Axe, just the card alone wins you aggro matchups. Like you don't need the armor smith as
It's true.
well. Like Fiery War Axe by itself, if you mulligan for it and get it against Hunter or Zoo, you probably just win the game. Like
Yeah, because he destroys it.
that card's so strong, and like the armor smith is like it just gains you like a dinky amount of life. It doesn't like impact the board significant enough to play it, I don't think. I'd rather just play double sheep, and like
Hmm.
Shield Maiden just kind of later game just gives you more armor. Plus she gives you a 5/5 body that you can actually start applying a clock to. But like I think the right number of armor smiths is like one or zero. But like that means the only thing early game that you're able to trigger crush off of is Acolyte of Pain. So
Well, the reason
it's
why,
like
oh, sorry. Well, the reason why they even used the Armor Smith is because Warrior had no other options for, early cards, so we just had it in there because it can get out of hand if your
yeah,
opponent just
yeah.
avoids it. But from itself, I agree that it's useless, and I would take out one of them for one Iron like Juggernaut. But the thing about Iron Juggernaut is, yeah, like I summon it, right? 6 or 6/5, that's amazing, instant like value. And plus, adds one extra card to your opponent's deck. But the thing is about that is every control warrior has access to Alexstrasza, right?
I'm
And
not playing Iron Juggernaut as
what
it
if?
is.
Hmm.
Oh, you're not. All right.
No,
Well,
I
well,
don't.
well, the
I don't really
weakness.
like
Well,
it.
all right. Well, the weakness of including that combined with the usual formula of Alexstrasza is what happens if you get it right, and like before you Electraza, and then it does 10 damage right there, and then it's at 20. And then, you draw into turn 9 Electraza, and your opponent's at 18. Why would you summon that? Like, if you have a way of changing your opponent's life, and you can't control that 10 damage boom, it makes no difference if your opponent's still ahead, and then it goes back to a life total that's higher than it's already like 10 boom damage. So it contradicts the
Hmm.
whole like life swapping effect. Siege Engine, I've seen this card used a lot in Arena, and in Arena where it's just random versus random, this card has a lot of moments to shine. Screwgen Clunker, it has the second best mech effect in my opinion. The first one being the Sensei, class card for Rogue. But for this one, there just aren't that many mech,
Hmm.
like space available when Control Warrior is already a winning formula, like I said. Bouncing Blade. I remember when this card got released. Everybody was like, "Oh man, Warrior combined with this and Commanding Shell, your minions don't die." But nobody has used that. It's just even when they do use it, they use it against their friends that are getting into Hearthstone just to promote that you can do crazy stuff like that. But when they learn about the game, they're like, "Oh, you lied to me," because doing stuff like this like makes me like lose the game sometimes. So yeah, Ogre
Hmm.
Warmaul is an ogre card, so it's always bad. And Warbot at best it's a 1 for a 2/2. And even then, why would I use Precious Deck Space just for that? I would rather use some other overpowered like legendary instead. Um,
Hmm.
I would say that Warriors got a lot of value, but at the same time, how can you buff something that's already been good, you know?
Right. Right. Alrighty. So I wanted to go over a few neutral cards, not all of them, obviously, but just some of the ones that, like for example, like Doctor Boom has really seemed to have taken form. Like everyone seems to be running that card. Um, I don't have the card, so I haven't used it, but I mean, like putting a 7/7 to 2/1/1s that do up to 4 extra
Yeah.
damage each on the board is pretty insane. Have you guys? What have your interactions been with this card,
Card's really
Jordan?
good. I played it in Control Warrior like right from the first iteration of Control Warrior I tried in this meta, and like it's really freaking good card. Like, oh,
Wait, what? Hold on.
Who's up? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a really good card. I think like it was one of like like when people saw it, it was like, oh, it's like it could be good. It's like a cool card. It's got a sweet ass name. Uh, and
Yeah.
like I think it's kind of like surpassed Trogzor as the 7 drop of choice. I think like Doctor Boom's good
Hmm.
when you're ahead. He's good when you're behind. He just synergizes well with the Control Warrior deck. Whereas like Trogzor is really only good if you're ahead. So yeah.
Yeah. Pablo, how do you feel about Dr. Boom?
I agree that's like the second, or honestly the first best like legendary ever released, and its stats and its cost are just perfect there. But it's not okay for 7 mana. You don't always get a 7/7 because the boom bots have a potential of getting 4 extra damage out there. So it can be like a 7 for a 15/15 at best, which is pretty good value. And and most of the time I summon it, my
Hmm.
opponent tries to, like play around it. But then if it goes for face, then and they use all the monsters on Doctor Boom to kill it, the next turn I can just finish them up with the Boombot. So it's always like a one-sided board wipe. Like either way, if they decide to kill it or they don't. And
Hmm.
it creates a defensive wall because yeah, it has no value when you summon it, and it would be overpowered if the Boombot had charge. But for your next turn, it's just care of it on that one turn, or they have to suffer the consequences of the full power of Doctor Boom on their next turn.
Hmm. Alrighty. So now what I want to talk about is Fel Reaver. Um, I mean, it's I've seen it played quite a bit, and obviously there's a lot of debate about like the relevance of burning cards. If you have an 8/8 on the board that's killing your opponent, the cards don't matter that you're losing. Um, Jordan, what do you think of Fel
Yeah, Fell
Reaver?
Reaver's the Goblins versus Gnomes card that I probably played the most. I like auto swapped Fell Reaver in for Sledge Belcher in my Hunter deck, and that card is insane. When when somebody finds a
Hmm.
downside to Fell Reaver, please message me because I literally have never lost a game that I've played and attacked with a Fell Reaver. The the downside is so insignificant. It's like it it just doesn't matter. Like 'cause I've had opponents play like I played this on turn 5 after like curving out minions and like they're like, oh shit. I think sometimes they just be like, okay, now I just gotta mill this guy. And then it's like they completely forget the fact that it's an 8/8 hitting you in the face every turn. Like and
Hmm.
the thing is the mill is only relevant in the games that you would normally win that you lost because of fatigue, right? Like those are the only
Hmm.
games that its effect becomes relevant. Is the games that you would have won had you not have fatigued, which I think is as a hunter or like the aggro decks, which this card is better in, is like very, very minimal. So like this card just it's amazing card. So yeah, that's my
Hmm.
opinion.
Pablo, how do you feel? What are your interactions with Fel Reaver on the ladder?
Most of the time, they don't even want to kill it. They just want to, control it and just win the other option of just, making your opponent have no more cards to play, so they get into fatigue. With that said, a lot of people have been using Fel Reaver with that Nax Ramus card that silences all your minions. And while that combo isn't really
Hmm.
that, that prompt or always used all the time, uh, it can still, Fel Reaver as an aggro enabler card is powerful on its own. Like I said, no one obviously wants to kill this card. It just wants to let it live. Probably, and even when they do kill it, they always use other don't kill it before they do it. And but then most of the time they overextend, and that can lead into someone losing because that's actually what happened to me like last time. They actually, wanted to play smart and overkill me by overplaying because, Fel Reaper's out. But then they didn't realize that, I'm playing mage and I just flame strike them on the next turn.
Hmm.
And they obviously didn't see that Fellraver by itself is really good, but then compared with a silence minion on it, like they didn't expect me to silence it and then attack for face for 8 damage with obviously like no drawback. But I still say it's a good card. It's
Hmm.
just I don't know, depending on the matchup or like if Hearthstone had a sideboard option, I would always sideboard this against control decks. Yeah.
Hmm. So I also want to talk about Bomb Lobber. I mean, I don't think we ever thought the card um was bad or anything, but I think it's definitely like seemed like the sleeper hit along with like Doctor Boom, for example. Like putting it seems like putting a 3/3 in play that removes an opponent's card. Like the tempo swing of that is really important, and I don't think people thought this card was going to be as good as it turned out to be. I've seen it played a lot. Jordan, what's your interaction with
I have
Bomb
mixed
Lobber?
emotions about Bomb Lobber because like I feel like he's really good. Like his effect's pretty powerful. I haven't played him at all. Just I
Hmm.
just like I don't know. I just a 5 mana 3/3 that like the thing is like in constructed, what are you trying to kill with this? You know what I mean? Like this I guess you're trying to win like
Hmm.
the mid-rangey like wars. So like this guy might be good in like maybe like a druid, maybe as like a one-off in druid maybe that like they can't really deal
Hmm.
with the board effectively. But like I don't know. I think it's a good card now, opposed to like completely useless. But I think it's like a very like it's dependent on what other people are playing. You know what I mean? Like against Sludge Belcher, this guy
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
really do much, or like even like Lotheb or like most of the other 5 drops. You know what I mean? But like as a card,
Hmm.
like to gain back tempo, I think he's pretty decent. I don't know. He's better than I thought he would. He's better than I thought he was gonna be. So
Yeah, I agree. That's why I say he was a sleeper. I think he sort of surprised people with how
yeah,
good he turned out to be. I think we lost Pablo. Are you there?
losing everybody tonight.
I know. I don't know what's going. I know Tiago's having a blackout, and I know Pablo's he's on his phone in a hotel, so maybe he's just having connection issues. And no, I don't know what happened. But yeah, like this is really falling apart. Let's move on. What else did I want to?
One card too, like if I can bring it up, one card that like I've had interesting
Absolutely.
stuff is the Enhanso Mechano in like a
Oh,
zoo
okay.
deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been playing him as just like a one-off. I've been playing like I tried out like Mech Zoo at the beginning, and then I felt like it was just like it was just way worse than just like the regular old zoo. So I went back to old zoo, but I left
Hmm.
in the one in Hansel Mechano, and it's like really really good because you just like sometimes you just randomly give
Hmm.
like your flame imp or like your knife juggler gets like wind fury, and you're just like, wow, this is awesome. Like it just does like random things. And I think one card too that's been like overhyped is Little Exorcist. I feel like that was one
Hmm.
thing where everybody was like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
card's like really good. It's gonna deal with like death rattle and stuff." And then like I just haven't seen it at all.
Hmm.
So
I see it in Paladin a little bit. Basically, I don't know. It's like it puts up a taunt wall that's actually not that hard for them
yeah,
to get through. Is the problem? It's like they can just push through it. It's like it slows them down a little bit, but doesn't actually do that much. So I
yeah.
think yeah,
Like
I
in
agree with you on that one.
the one thing that I'm happy is like a hole that Blizzard didn't do was add more silence into the game because I think effects like silence are just
Hmm.
way too strong. Like I think Owl is actually just way too strong of a card as a 2 mana.
Yeah, I've always thought like being able to remove everything is like if it removed like one feature like
Yeah.
at random, maybe, but like being able to just neuter a card for
Like I've
that
been
is
like I
pretty
started playing
insane.
2 silences in like most decks, like 2 owls in most of my decks, and like I've never been disappointed with it
Hmm.
because it's like early on against aggro decks, you can play it on their undertakers, you can play it on haunted creepers, you can play it on like anything, right? Later on, you can play against Reg if you need to, if you're desperate. You don't want him sniping away. You can play it on Grom. Like it's just so good on so many things, and I'm just so glad they didn't print more silence in this set.
Hmm. Uh, let's see. So let's actually I'm curious to know what you think of the spare parts. It's a new mechanic. They're basically tempo cards in my opinion. Like I think being able to freeze a minion for 1 mana or having stealth or being able to trade with like reversing switch or
Mm.
something like that. It's like I'm actually surprised. Like I think I'm not saying like they're amazing cards, but I think like giving all classes access to these sort of tempo cards is actually pretty good. What do you
Yeah,
think of
they're all pretty strong actually.
what?
Like in like the Face Hunter deck that I have built, I have Clockwork Gnomes, and like on multiple times I've gotten Time Rewinder, and I've been like play Wolf Rider, Time Rewinder it back to my hand, play Wolf Rider again. Like it like
Hmm.
creates like funky interactions, or even like play a Death Rattle minion with Undertaker and play bounce it back to your hand, replay it, just things like that. Reversing switch too. I
Hmm.
think like the stuff that's like give +1 attack, give 1 health, give taunt. Like I think those are okay effects to have on cards like this. But I feel like reversing switch,
Hmm.
emergency cool in, time rewinder, and even the stealth ones are just too beneficial. It in like in such a small mechanic of the set. I feel like they do too much. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
interactions
I
created
agree.
from those four just do way too much. Like revert even as something as small as like reversing switch like what can I think of? Like even reversing switching like a sludge belcher or like playing reversing switch on
Hmm.
um just something that like even a Leok or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like the effect that you gain from like a
Hmm.
random extra card effect is just too great. And I think that's the same with the stealth one and the freeze one especially. Like the freeze one I've been like very impressed with. Like I'm almost happy to get this one off of a Clockwork Gnome in like the mid-range matchups like
Yeah.
against like something like Druid that relies on their minions to trade, I'm like, oh, please give me energy coolant. Like, I just want to stop like a minion from being able
Hmm.
to trade in, like, and just be able to go face more. But I feel like Rusty Horn, Whirling Blades, and Armor Plating are like they're like what they should be, and then the other four I feel like have
Right. Yeah.
potential to be way better than they should be.
Hmm. I agree. Uh, I mean that might be pretty much it for cards. I just wanted to go over um just sort of like, not the expansions out, just go over some of the stuff that's
And
available. Let's
Annoyatron is like very properly named. That card is annoying.
it's definitely a really good card. It especially if you can get it buffed with like the like mech synergy. So like if you like I don't know like Iron Sensei or Screwjank or
Yeah.
any of those are buff cards, makes it even better. Um, all right, so now we're gonna move on to talk about the card nerfs. We mentioned a little bit about it earlier, but we'll go over in more detail. Uh, let's see. All right, so the first okay, so I mean in general I think these cards need to be nerfed. I just don't agree with how they nerfed them. Like Blizzard seems to think just adding a mana cost to everything is all it takes to nerf a card. I mean, they don't do it in every case, but more often than not, they just make it one mana point higher, and that apparently solved the problem, which I don't
Mm.
agree with. Like with Flare, I mean, Flare used to be a card in beta where it broke all secrets, not just
Mhm.
your opponent's secrets, and they buffed it to just your opponent's secrets. I mean, there was actually a time we had to actually think about how you use this card. Like I saw like hunters play a secret then
Yeah.
break their own secret with Flare. I mean, they buffed this card to the point of being mindless, and now they're removing that by adding a mana cost. It's like, well, if you left it the way
Yeah.
it was fine. Like you actually had to, you couldn't play it any time you wanted before when it destroyed all secrets. They actually made the card way too powerful by doing that, and now they're like, adding a mana cost like to make up for it, which doesn't really quite cut it. I mean, if they just left it alone, it was fine. You know. What do
The
you think,
problem with
Jordan?
Flare is it didn't punish you for playing just having one in your deck as like a card, right? Because like it's just a one mana cantrip.
Hmm.
Like it was good against you can play it against anything, and then against opposing hunter and any mage that ran secrets, you just gained like a very very big effect. So I do think Flare did need to be changed, and I think it got changed in a way that like was kind of accurate because even if it said pay
Hmm.
one destroy all secrets, you can kind of play around that a little bit to where like you don't always have a secret in play,
Hmm.
it blows them out still. Um, and I think by increasing it by one, you're not going to play a two mana cantrip. Like I've cut Flare from everything now. It's not
Hmm.
that good, and I think I only lost one game by not having Flare in my deck. But the only way I would have won that game was if Flare was in the top 10 cards anyway. So it was like such a small thing. So I think Flare is just not playable anymore. It costs too much mana for what it does. But I think at one
Hmm.
mana it was too good. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like it's not good enough at two, it's too good at one. Um, I think of the three nerfs, this is the least egregious one. I think it going to two mana is not horrible
I
as
think
far as
all
nerfing
three of
goes.
them make
I
all
still
three
think they should.
cards pretty unplayable, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So let's move on to the next one, which is Auctioneer. So I mean, they nerfed Miracle with Naxxramas, so stuff like Loatheb, and they added anti-Auctioneer cards like Bomb Lobber and Flame Cannon, and they nerfed Auctioneer by making him 6 mana. I think they've really just sort of overkilled this card. They at this like they might as well take it out of
Basically,
the
yeah.
game at some point because they're trying so hard. They're trying so hard to break it that they might as well it might as well just not
Exactly.
be in the game at all. Um, and to me, I don't think it's fair. I mean, I think it should be a 4 or 5. Like if you're gonna make it 6 mana, at least make it comparable to other six
Yeah.
cost cards. Because most of the six drops that are either epics or legendaries are 4 or 5. They're basically Yetis. So if you're gonna make the ability cost 2 mana, Yeti with this two
Mhm.
mana card draw mechanic that the auctioneer has, it should at least be a 4 or 5. Because now it still dies to all the anti-auctioneer cards like Flame Cannon,
Yeah.
and it costs more. I don't understand why they felt the need to overkill this card. It's pretty insane. What do you think, Jordan?
Um, Miracle Rogue was the deck that I enjoyed playing. I liked playing it. It was frustrating when
Hmm.
you didn't draw the auctioneer, but like that's part of the
Hmm.
that's part of playing that deck. Like you know what I mean? Like it's like when you build a
Right.
deck around a card that you have a 1 in 15 chance to draw, like you're playing cards like preparation in your deck only because it's gonna draw you a card off of Gadgets and Auctioneer. And it's like
Hmm.
I feel like they nerfed it in the wrong way. And I feel like you said before, like they're just like, oh, we're just gonna slap a mana on this and all is gonna be solved. Well, it's like it kind of just made
Hmm.
they're just making cards that like are too good. They're just making them like not playable, to be honest with you. And
Hmm.
like I feel like if they just keep doing that, it's just like decks like Miracle Rogue, I feel like should be part of the game. Like it's not absurd what it did. And like Leroy just got nerfed. Like you know what I mean? But like
Right. Yeah.
Leroy was a card that was played in more than one deck. Like it was good in aggro hunter, it was good in handlock, it was good in Miracle Rogue, and I feel like Leroy was the nerf that like made Miracle Rogue, like just okay, and it was like almost fair. And I just feel like by now nerfing
Hmm.
Auctioneer, it's just like not even a, it's not even a, like I'm just gonna, like you might as well just disenchant your preparations. Like it's just not worth playing it anymore, to be honest. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, the thing about the Leroy nerf, I mean, that's another example of them just adding a mana point. And, like, I feel like they don't address the problem. Like, to me, the cost of Leroy was not the problem. The problem was his
I
interaction
think
with
the
spells.
cost kind of was though
So I think the
because like
better.
with Shadow Step, right?
Well, here's the thing. My solution would be they should add the battle cry that you can't play spells this turn. So any spell you want to play, you have to play it before Leroy was played, which means
Yeah,
no combos, and no Unleash the Hounds, no Shadow Step combo, all that sort of stuff. So to me, that would better solve the problem. Like just adding a mana cost that helps with Shadow Step, but it doesn't completely solve the problem. Like it's not addressing the problem of the card, which is the combo. It's
yeah.
not the cost of it. Yeah. So I mean, adding five, making it 5 mana is not the end of the world. It was fine. Like I think the Sylvanas nerf was like the best nerf they did, where they added a mana cost to it. Like at
Yeah,
5 mana, that card was insane, and I think at 6 mana
yeah.
as a legendary, it's really good. That's probably like the best nerf they've done, where just adding a mana point, and they'll probably do the same thing to the low sub. I think. Like I think that card's way too
I
good at
think
five
actually
mana.
Lotheb's only
Um,
good in like aggro decks right now. Like in control decks, I don't think he's all that good
mhm,
right now, just because like there's a lot of things that like there's a lot of good minions that you can play in control decks, and I just feel like Lotheb is really good in like those mid-rangey like wars. So like he's really good in Druid. He's really good in like
mhm,
Hunter, like one of the Hunter decks that I'm playing right now. He's really good in
mhm.
like just mid-range decks. He's really good in. But like I've cut him from Control Warrior. He just he's just not that good in Control Warrior to be honest. And like
Okay.
I think Lotheb has like a unique effect, and it's like it's not overpowered in my opinion. It's like it's just really good.
Mhm.
So
My issue with Lotub is it's I don't know. It seems weird to me. It's a basic card that can't be that almost can't be answered. I mean, obviously now minions have a better chance of answering them. So that they've introduced new minions that have that potential. But like yeah, like at turn 8 you can answer with Shadow or Death or something like that. But it's like um, I just always thought that like a minion that can't be answered to turn to play is kind of
yeah,
nuts. But
it does kind of like lock people
whatever.
out for a turn, but like that's only
Hmm.
you being locked out for a turn playing spells is only relevant in games that you're probably already behind in. So it's like against Hunter, if they
Hmm.
like curve out pretty well, and then it's like they kind of have like two other minions on the board, like little fringe minions, and then they drop Lotheb. Like Lotheb's like really, really good there because then it's like they can't mass removal,
Hmm.
they can't even one for one removal your
Hmm.
5/5. So like he's gonna get in for a hit. But like I think it's only good in those situations. Like the games where you play like the board's empty and you go turn 5 Lotheb, it's just like meh, okay. Like I'll just play my other
Yeah, it
minion
doesn't do
and
anything.
do that. So yeah, I think Lotheb's a fine card.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Last
Soul
one is
Finder.
yes. So Blizzard's reasoning for nerfing this card was to stop aggro, but I mean, I think the problem is they ignored the fact that like this was a great tempo card for handlock. Um, the problem with Soulfire to me was not the cost; it was the fact that that you could Zoo can dump their whole hand
Yeah,
and then play Soulfire for free. Handlock would never do that. Like if Handlock does the opposite of that, it
yeah,
tries to get as many cards as possible. Like to me, the way you nerf this card is if you don't discard a card, it only does 2 damage,
yeah,
not four, rather than just
yeah,
making it 1 mana. I think making it 1 mana it really hurts Handlock's ability to
yeah,
fight back into aggro because it meant that they like the whole point of Handlock is card advantage, and this card sacrifices a little bit of that because you're using this card, but you're also losing another card, and odds are you're losing something you want to keep, like Jiraxis. Like I discard Jiraxis all the time with Soulfire and Handlock. It's really annoying, but you know, with Zoo they're gonna lose like what a Dire Wolf. It's like it's not. I mean, well, it can lose Doomguard
hmm
obviously, but it hurts Handlock
yeah,
more than it hurts Zoo. Um, and I think it was a mistake. I think should have made it do less damage if you didn't discard a card, which would never affect
Yeah, I
Handlock.
like
It would only
that.
affect Zoo. That's yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked
What are your
that
thoughts on it?
nerf to be honest, because like I'm not in my handlock deck. I'm not even playing Soulfire anymore. I'm just playing one Dark Bomb,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
in Zoo I'm still playing two Soulfires because it's pay one deal four, and like when you life tap into it later on, it's like awesome still because it's pay one deal four.
Hmm.
I actually like that nerf that
Right.
you had suggested with the if you don't discard a card, it deals two or something like that, and then if you do discard the card, it's four instead. But
Hmm.
the one mana is actually like pretty relevant in Zoo as well because it's like there's been games where I've thought like, oh, it still costs zero, so I'll like play out my whole hand, and then I'm like, oh shit, like I forgot to leave up one mana
Hmm.
for that. But I don't know. Yeah, I thought Soulfire was like you're already you're discarding a card to deal two extra damage. If we're going to use like Holy Smite as an example, right? So let's use Holy Smite as an example.
Right.
So like we're discarding a card to deal two extra damage. Whereas if it costs zero, it's still discarded a card and did two extra damage. But a card like Innervate, which is like discard a card to play your next minion for two less. Like I think Innervate is a bigger problem than Soulfire, to be honest with you. Because like Innervate makes for games where
Hmm.
it's like they're just like coin Innervate Yeti go. And like it does happen more often than people even people that play it.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? That's like a way more I'd rather people have zero mana Soulfires than be able to go coin Yeti turn one. Like
Right. Yeah.
that
So.
like Innervate is just like I feel like Innervate's going to be a card that we're going to have a problem with like later on because like the
Mhm.
ability to like it's basically discard a card to reduce the mana cost of something by two, and it's just like in
Mhm.
previous card games like free things have never been a good thing, and like even as something as simple as the new mech deck with like the new druid mech deck with like mech warpers like on turn one you can go mech warper like you can go innervate mech warper and then play your two other two cost mechs like that's just unhealthy
Right. Yeah.
and then being able to like play a five drop on turn three against like any deck is just too good I think innervate's a card that needs to be looked at and
Yeah. I mean, it's another one of those situations where it's sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if they were to example make it only like a base like coin, then it's worthless. Because now you're because the thing about coin is it's a
yeah
free card for going second. Um, and if they made it like one mana, it's like okay, so you're paying one mana to get two mana. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm not really sure
If
like
it
what they do to
costs
that
if
card.
it costs like one
Um,
mana to gain like if it was like a dark ritual, do you think it would be decent enough? Like a one mana like gain three? Like is that better or is that
one mana gain
worse?
three.
Like that's the thing. I'm not sure if that's better or if it's worse or if it's
I mean, it's probably better if only because you have to spend mana. I mean, that's like the idea they had about Soulfire was
that's the
requiring you to
thing.
spend mana on it. Like the thing about Innervate is that if you have no mana left and you Innervate, now you
That's
have
the
a
thing.
hero
You
power or
can
something,
like
you know.
draw
So I
into it
mean,
off of like Ancient of Lore. And then it's like if you get like innervate innervate, you know what I mean? Like you're just so far ahead. I think like zero cost spells are not good.
right, right.
Like every single zero cost
Hmm.
spell needed to be changed, even like Hunter's Mark, because like even the games where you'd be
Hmm.
able to go like, that you're able to go like Buzzard, Unleash the Hounds, draw a bunch of cards. Oh, I found my two. Uh, what's it called? I found my two Hunter's Marks. I kill your two biggest guys, and then I attack your face. Like
Hmm.
that card needs to be changed. Um,
So I agree about that, except I have a
yeah,
problem
me
with
too.
equality as well. So I think equal I think they can't change Hunter's Mark until they change equality because like compared to the two like being able to equality one card for 0 versus hunters marking the entire board for 2. I think they need to change both of them, but equality has to be changed
Yeah.
first because like if you made like hunters mark 1 mana, it's like okay, so now equality is 1 extra mana for hunters mark the
Yeah.
entire board. It's pretty insane. Uh, but so I'm
Like
not sure.
I
Like
think Hunter's Mark
I don't
now
know.
is fine, but I feel like there was a point where Hunter's Mark could have been the change that was needed instead of something drastic like Unleash the Hounds being changed or something like that. Because there was a point where it was like
Hmm.
that, like Hunter's Mark was the problem card, not Unleash the Hounds. Because it was like, sure, you could draw all these cards, sure, you could like, create a bunch of minions, but then you still can't get through my Molten Giant and my giant ass Drake that's been made, right? And it's like, I do agree with
Right.
you. Equality is a card that I've hated since like the first time I saw it. It's probably be the reason why I hate Paladin, to be honest with you. Because like,
Yeah, Paladin relies on it too much. It's like it's the whole class is like built
yeah,
around that
just like
card.
cards like that are just like I don't know. I'm There's just like too much upside and not enough downside to playing that card. Because it's like
Hmm.
you can manipulate it to always make it better for you than your opponent, and like your hero power is like make 1/1 guys. Like, do you know what I mean? I think it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
too strong. But then like Paladin doesn't see any play, so it's like is it too good? Is it so I don't
Yeah. It's like this one aspect of the class is too good, and the rest is not
yeah.
that great. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. um. There's one other. And there's one other card I want to talk about. I completely forgot now. Um. All right. I think that'll do it for the card nerfs. I think we should call it a show here because we've
Yeah, we've
lost
lost half
half
the
of our.
people. Or
Actually, we've lost three of the four people on they're on the show, and we've gone on 2 hours now, which is good. I mean, I was thinking about going between 2 and 3 hours, and I think this is fine. We'll talk about the decks
yeah,
some other time. There's plenty of time to talk about this stuff. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Please go to StingRaze.com. The first episode is on the website. It's also on iTunes. I got the notification today that our podcast was approved for iTunes. I don't. It should be searchable by now because that was earlier in the day that they told me. Um, but I haven't checked yet. Uh, but I'm gonna post this podcast on iTunes on the website, which will be uploaded to iTunes automatically. So look for that tomorrow. The next show will be on Monday. I'm not sure what the topic will be, but I'll figure it out over the weekend. Again, the plan is to do a show Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week, uh, and we'll upload the video to YouTube, and there'll be an iTunes version, there'll be a version, the audio version on the website, etc., etc., etc. So please follow the channel. Go to the website for more information. I want to thank Jordan and Pablo and Tiago and Noah for being here. As much as they could be, of course. But we'll work on our technical issues. Maybe Skype is not the best way to do this. Maybe we can figure out a better option. But second episode, I think it's going
yep.
well considering. But uh, any last words, Jordan, before we sign off?
If you find a downside to Fell Reaver, you know where to find me. But good luck. And I think like in the next couple days, we're gonna see a lot more Face Hunter on ladder. I think
Hmm.
it's really good
Yeah.
right now. Might be even a little bit too good with the extra addition to Clockwork Gnome. Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
it's I've won some games that I just should never have won today. Like they were just absurd. And it'd be like Warrior is like turn 9, he Alex and like Shield Maiden. I think he was at like he was probably at 17 like later on in the game, and I had two of the cards, both the cards off of Clockwork Gnome I got were the ones that bounce the minion back to your hand, and then I drew my Arcane Golem, and I'm
Hmm.
like, well, okay. I mean, sometimes you're just lucky, I guess. So it's like I was like, play it, attack for 4, bounce it back to my hand, play it, attack for 4, bounce it back to my hand, hero power you. Like that was like 10. And then he's like, huh, okay. Played a couple guys, attacked me. I'm like, well, I guess Wolf Rider is good here when I just get to straight up kill him. So I'm like, Arcane Golem for the third time, Wolf Rider, hero power, game you. And it's just like somehow I won that game off of spare parts. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think Face Hunter is still really good. That's all I gotta say.
yeah. That's, alrighty. And so once again, please go. Things. Sorry. Please go to the website stingraze.com. Follow the channel, and we'll be back on Monday with another podcast for you. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.